All right, good morning. It is Monday, September the 9th, 2025. Hope everyone had a nice weekend. Kroll family had a nice, kind of quiet weekend with my daughter had a soccer game. My son went to a birthday party. I mowed the grass. It was pretty warm, but all things considered, a pretty good weekend. Looking at markets last week, holiday shortened week, and a relatively quiet week in markets as well. Returns were relatively flat last week. I guess some notable economic data that's worth mentioning. Maybe most importantly, so some weaker than expected employment reports. Okay, so I feel like I've been talking about it for a couple of years now, but just like at some point, these higher interest rates are going to make it more difficult for companies to invest in profitable projects, which in turn will again at some point companies will have to stop hiring, perhaps start laying people off. And maybe this is coming to fruition as both the private payrolls as well as Friday's report, both weaker than expected on the jobs front. All right, the Treasury market, so bond yields reflected that as well. So you saw yields come down a little bit. All right, so bond prices moving higher. Now the Fed, all but guarantees that they will be cutting interest rates by at least a quarter point here in September. And now the market's even pricing in potentially a third cut before the end of the year. So we'll see. The majority of this morning, I came across a really fun piece of research that Avantis put together. The title being, which has better returns, pro sports teams or just public stocks? Which has better returns? Just a really fun piece of research. And it largely surrounds Jerry Buss, right, who purchased the Los Angeles Lakers back in 1979. And Jerry paid roughly $50 million for the Lakers piece of that acquisition in 1979. Now Jerry has since passed, but his family, the Buss family, recently sold the Lakers for $10 billion. All right, so between 1979 and today, the rate of return on that investment, it's an annualized rate of return of 12.21%. Okay. And what's really interesting, what Avantis pointed out, the annualized return of the S&P 500 during that same time period, actually a touch better at 12.24%. All right, so Jerry, instead of buying the Lakers, he could have just bought, markets weren't, you couldn't get access to the S&P 500 as easily back then, but he could have bought the S&P 500 and instead of 10 billion, he could have had like 10.1 billion today. All right, and then the study, it looked at a dozen of other teams as well, other pro sports teams. So some have fared a little better than the S&P 500. Some have fared not as well as the S&P 500, but by and large, kind of right in line. All right, and then the research took it one step further. We talk a lot in the office about how it might be okay to own the S&P 500 for like a part of your portfolio, but it would certainly be suboptimal to have that be your only holding. That would be not a good portfolio. All right, and so Avantis, they said, all right, let's go back to when Jerry purchased the Lakers in 1979 through today. And instead of buying the S&P 500, what if instead you bought, companies like an index that had lower prices? So, like in other words, more value. Companies with higher profitability metrics. These are some of the nerdy things we talk about in the office, right? Just those characteristics of equities that have higher expected returns. Okay, so based on that index, if you bought a portfolio tilted in that regard. That's returned in annualized, over 16% in that same time period, meaning Jerry's 50 million could have been closer to like 50 billion with like a better constructed portfolio. So I don't know, just some really interesting. I thought that was interesting, right? The vast majority of individuals don't have the means to purchase a pro sports team, and this just kind of points out that's okay. We probably shouldn't be doing that anyway, for most of us. So, you know, outside of that, like, reviews have been really fun. Excited to kick off week 3 here. It's been just awesome catching up with many of you the last couple weeks, and looking forward to some more good weeks ahead here. So I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Question, comments, concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.